Thanks for tuning in to Women Who Open Doors, a podcast dedicated to lifting the voices of incredible women in our communities who not only excel in their careers, but inspire us through their actions for others. Hi, I'm Julie Collins, owner and coach of Not Magic, and it's my honor to help share the stories of these remarkable women. So without further ado, welcome to Women Who Open Doors. Welcome to Women Who Open Doors. I'm really excited today to have a friend of ours through the whole team here at Not Magic. So Jennifer Dirks is joining us today. Let me tell you a little bit about Jen. We're going to call her Jen today, by the way. So Jennifer Dirks is a seasoned communications and public relations executive with over 25 years of experience in corporate and agency environments. She joined Tempo in 2014 as the organization's first president and CEO. In this role, she oversees the development and execution of Tempo's strategic direction, ensuring alignment with the mission to enhance the impact of women leaders in Milwaukee's business community. Jennifer's extensive background includes Director of Corporate Communications and Public Relations for Clifton Gunderson, now CLA, and holding key positions at Bader Rudder and Zeppos and Associates. She also has a decade of experience, which was super cool to learn, as a television news reporter and producer. We're going to talk about that today. Recognized also as a woman of influence and a power broker by the Milwaukee Business Journal. Jennifer holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Mass Communications from Illinois State University. So Jennifer, welcome to Women Who Open Doors.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a wonderful opportunity. So
Thanks.
Glad to be here.
Thanks. I'm very excited to have you. So let's tell a little bit. I know, the brand is well known here in Wisconsin, but let's talk a little bit about Tempo for our listeners that get outside of this area. So tell us a little bit more about Tempo first, just to ground everybody in the organization.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So Tempo we will celebrate 50 years next year.
Wow. That's
As
cool.
a professional women's organization. It's a membership organization really focused on executive women, executive leadership. So Tempo members we have combined with our emerging women leaders, which is that next generation, the future generation of leaders. As an organization, we are about 800 Tempo and emerging women leaders, providing professional development programming. We host signature events throughout the year. We are based really on mentoring. That's part of our DNA. It's who we are. It's what we've been doing, as well as advocating and elevating women in our community and beyond. So really pleased to have joined this organization. I will not celebrate 50 years. I will celebrate 10 years as the president and CEO. So this has been just a wonderful journey for me.
Yeah. What inspired you then back 10 years ago to join Tempo, and what was that initial passion that got you to that organization?
So this is I think it may be from my career journey, the moment when my passion really matched my purpose. So Tempo's mission is to further the impact of women leaders. And how can you not get your arms wrapped around that? How can you not embrace that mission? And so there was an opportunity for me to come join this network, this community of women executives to learn from, to be mentored by, to be coached by. And then it was also a really critical time for women, especially for women in the workplace. There was an opportunity to really elevate our presence, elevate our voice. And this is just the perfect platform to do it. So I'm incredibly blessed.
Were you a member? Jen, were you a member first?
I was not a member. Interestingly enough, there was another women's organization here in town called Professional Dimensions. I knew of the great work that Tempo was doing in our community. I was sitting on the board of PD at the time when I was approached. So, and Julie, this was my first. I had no expertise. This wasn't my industry. Nonprofit space was not something I was familiar with. But I loved strategy. I love to grow things. It's a little bit of an entrepreneur spirit. And marketing communications was my background, as you just
Mhm.
mentioned. So that was something that I thought I could really do and help to elevate the brand of Tempo.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's super cool. What about your progression of the career? So, I mentioned before that you were a news reporter and producer, which I was like, I didn't know that about her. So, tell us through, walk us through some of those steps first to also, kind of show the progression of your career for us.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. When I went to school at Illinois State University, we had a great broadcasting program. So that was my desire. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a TV news reporter slash anchor. That was the
Hmm.
goal when I went and
Yeah.
started at Illinois State University. So did that, was about 10 years in that role, and didn't really think there was a career beyond that, wanted to stay in that. But I found myself, it was quite competitive, and I found myself steering away from the storytelling aspect of it and really focusing more on kind of a sensationalized
Mhm.
approach to news. We had this phrase at the news station, if it bleeds, it leads, which I didn't want to get my arms wrapped around. And
Yeah.
so found myself enjoying the telling the story, but really focused on the human side of that and what that looked like. And so that naturally, after 10 years, brought me into the agency world. So I found myself on the opposite side. So I was telling stories and selling my stories for my clients back to the media. So I felt like I had a little bit of insight into
Mhm.
knowing what made a good story and what was that key nugget that reporters would really, you know, say that this is something that we needed to have on the 5 o'clock or the 10 o'clock news. So then did a couple of different agency work, marketing, communications. And then my final stint before I came into Tempo was working as a corporate director of corporate communications. And I found my real footing for strategy. I was shortly after I joined Clifton Gunderson, which is a national CPA accounting firm. They were told me that we've never had a marketing communications individual. We know that this is important because we are on the cusp of announcing the first female CEO in
Mm.
the industry. So this was unheard of in our marketplace for
Mhm.
a organization or an accounting firm this size. And so she pulled me under her wing. She taught me about what it means to be a woman in a male dominated industry. She taught me strategy. She taught me we were doing flash mobs when flash mobs were cool for an accounting firm, which was unheard of. So
Right.
it just was,
Yeah.
I owe so much to her and just to put me in a really great spot. And then I think I kind of just grew from there. I wasn't looking for a nonprofit role
Yeah.
at the time that Tempo came a calling, but it was a great move for me at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. What about it was, like, kind of intriguing for you on the nonprofit side? And, you talked about how they kinda came together, but what about it was intriguing?
It was something new. It was something new. I knew I could do maybe half of the job. I
Yeah.
didn't have nonprofit experience. I didn't have fundraising experience. But I think as women, we often sell ourselves short. Like you
Mhm.
hear that if we don't check every single box on a job description, then we eliminate ourselves.
Right.
And so this was one of those areas where I knew I didn't have the fundraising. I didn't know anything about nonprofit world at that point, but I also knew that I needed to do this. This was something
Mhm.
that was new to me. I needed to take that risk. I needed to step out of my comfort zone
Yeah.
and go after things. And I felt super confident in what I could bring from that strategy perspective and from the marketing branding. And then I was like, well, hopefully I'm a constant learner. I'll be able to learn
Mhm.
the other stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when you started then back, 10 years ago, and obviously, you have some things to learn, but I imagine you had some initial goals as you looked at the organization. You keep using the word strategy. So there had to be some hunger for, the strategy. What were the initial goals for you as you got in 10 years ago?
Yes. So I think one of the biggest items was it was just me.
Mhm.
And the board was really, so I reported into a board, which was also new to me. So I had 21 bosses, which was interesting and different
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
But I wanted to learn all elements and all aspects of the organization before I even hired my first person. And so
Mhm.
getting into the weeds with our database, learning the systems, learning the processes, and then my one of my biggest goals was streamlining those processes. So where could
Mhm.
we be more efficient? Where could we look at, well, we've already done things for the last 40 years this way. Do we need to like update? Do we look at, giving better strategies or processes? So that was part of that. Financials was a huge lift for me. I am not a financial whiz. Now I can say, my treasurer will often say, I'm too into the weeds with the finances.
Sure.
But that was something that I really wanted to learn. And so I am blessed with my 800 Temple members that I was able to tap into those areas of expertise. What I didn't have,
Mhm.
I reached out to them to say, teach me. So coach me, mentor me. So that
Mhm.
was really helpful. So processes, procedures, financials. And then I really came from a corporate background of a growth strategy. So often nonprofits are really looking to balance your budget out. But I was of the mindset is up if what we bring into the organization, then we can put more out into the
Mhm.
community, which was our ultimate goal. So that was
Yeah.
another area. We had a cap on membership, Julie, when I joined. We were right around 200,
I was gonna
250
ask, how big
members.
were you? Yeah.
Yeah, we were
Okay.
about
Yeah.
250 members. We capped our membership, and it was, at the time, it was very intentional because there were very few women that met that C suite, even 10
Mhm.
years ago, and even in 1975 when Tepo started. But I was kind of the mindset if more women, and particularly women in male dominated industries like manufacturing, technology, construction, we were seeing more and more women rise into those roles. So why have a cap? Let's open that
Mhm.
up. It only strengthens our mission of furthering that impact of women leaders. And so we
Right.
quickly got rid of that. It was a board decision. And then, we were able to, a couple of years later, introduce our emerging women leaders, which was another opportunity to really embrace that future generation and
Mhm.
speak to relevancy of what Temple looks like in the next 50 years.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I had for you. I've worked with several membership organizations, part of our client base, people I've worked with in the past. It's not an easy place to be. So, especially with the way, COVID affected it, next generation, how we communicated affected it. So, what were some of the key things for you as part of the strategy to, grow the membership organization in an environment that's not easy to do? What was really important to you along the way?
Remain relevant and remain on top of issues that were really impacting women in the workplace.
Mhm.
And we there had have been times across the last 10 years that maybe we always remember to focus on the mission, impacting
Mhm.
further impact women leaders. So if we stuck with that and continue to make it a place where it's representative of all of our community. It's inclusive of diversity of thought, diversity of race, diversity of industries. I think we always had to how can we continue to reimagine and reinvest in our community? I will say, I think we're different from membership organizations in that, as I mentioned earlier, this is a critical time for women, and you see the presence of women, the voice of women. More and more women are at the seat or included in those
Mhm.
decision makings. They are more CEOs. We still have work to do, of course, but I
Mhm.
think there is not a better time to be a part of a women's organization or running a women's organization, because we see the presence and the voice of women is just incredible these days. So
Mhm.
it's really, really fun to see.
Yeah. That's awesome. You brought up your emerging leaders group, and I mean, shout out because again, my team is
Yes.
is part of Tempo, and they have risen. But walk the individuals through that are listening to our program a little bit about that program and really the mission of EWL.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you so much for your support and your commitment. I think it's such a, you are just a incredible champion of women leaders. And this is just another element in showing that commitment through our emerging women leaders. And so we talked a little bit about the Tempo profile. So this is executive women, C-suite, senior women. What was happening is we were having a lot of interest in joining Tempo, but
Yeah.
maybe women that weren't quite at that executive level. Maybe they had not reached that pinnacle of their career. And we were turning them away from membership, which, as an organization that supports women, it didn't sit right with me, didn't sit right with our board. And so we had thought, aside from that as well, is how do we remain relevant? What
Mhm.
does the future generation of women look like? And so we started to have these conversations, put together a business case of emerging women leaders, women that are well developed in their careers. So, not necessarily fresh out of college, but women that are established. But how do we help them? What is Tempo's role? What are our members' roles in helping these emerging women leaders get to that executive level or that C suite? And so we developed this program. There is a big component of the mentor serving from a Tempo member to the mentee to the emerging women leader. So I've been there, I've done that. How can I coach and mentor and sponsor you to help you get into that executive role or to rise to Tempo? And so it's been really, really great. Emerging women leaders have their separate programming. They have mentor circles, just like they follow and shadow many of the same programs that Tempo does, just at a different stage within their career journey. And then the biggest component of that is we want to see these emerging women leaders rise to Tempo and then give back to the emerging women leaders that are coming in.
Mhm.
So they were there, they were once there, and now they're able to mentor and sponsor and coach
Give
the
back.
next
That's
generation.
that's great. That's awesome. I love the model. I love the model. For you personally, especially over the last 10 years, what's been the biggest challenges that you've faced in this position and just what you're trying to do with the strategy? What's been the biggest issues that you've had to face?
I think the biggest issue that I've had to face is not putting too much on my plate. And you've got
Mhm.
so many great ideas, and you think of an organization of 800 powerful women coming to you and saying, let's do this, or have we thought about this? And I think I am by nature one of those that wants to, I have lots of ideas and I love to develop those ideas. It's the execution and implementation that sometimes can get
Right.
in the way. And so just making sure and being mindful to not take too much on. At the
Mhm.
same time, making sure that we're staying in our lane, Julie, because I think there are things that we could have gone down from a political path. We're not an advocacy group in terms of,
Mhm.
wanting to get from a legislator perspective, but
Right.
making sure that we are for issues that are directly impacting women in the workplace. That's where we need to have a voice, and
Mhm.
ensuring that we have that equity piece and that we have that presence. Media is coming to us now instead of us going to them. I think
Yeah.
that's been one of the areas that we've really tried to focus on.
Yeah, that's great. What's your vision? What's the next 5 to 7 years as you hit this 50-year mark and your 10-year? What's that next level that that you can give us a little sneak peek into?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think for in the nearest future is really just focusing on that 50th anniversary, the 50th year. So what does the last 5 decades tell us
Mhm.
about how women have evolved? But then what does the next 50 years look like for us?
Mhm.
What do we need to be doing? How do we continue to elevate the presence of women? I would love to see, we talk about the why of Tempo,
Mhm.
really spreading that beyond Milwaukee, what that might look like. Tempo just exists here in Wisconsin. So do we have the ability to take this beyond Wisconsin? What might that look like? So to me, it's the why. It's that impact piece. What are we doing to not only remain relevant and have a voice for women in the community, but beyond our membership? What are we doing to give back? What's that
Yeah.
impact look like? What's that why? So it's big, lofty goals, but
Yeah.
I'm a builder. I love
Yeah.
to create and think about things, and I encourage my team. I'm blessed with an amazing team to do that
That's
as
cool.
well.
That's very cool. Earlier you mentioned about having a board, reporting to a board that hadn't been, what'd you say, 21 you had at
Yes,
first? How many do you have today on the board of Tempo?
23 we have on our
23.
board now. Yes,
Okay.
so yes, it's big.
But you also, I mean, I have written down, and I know you're, because a organization near and dear to my heart, Pearls for Teen Girls. Shout out to Dr. Tardy for us
Yes, I
here.
know you had her on too. She's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, she's a wonderful person. Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra, is that correct?
Yes.
Frederick Medical College of Wisconsin. So you also sit on the other side of those, being a board member, a board president, board chair. So tell me what you learned about that experience, because even as you said earlier, right? Like, oh my gosh, I have 21 bosses. Being on both sides, what's the lessons that you've learned in that process?
I've learned so much. I've learned so much, and I am blessed with my board to have really engaged members. I think that's part of where I've learned too, and just on all the boards that I sit on, it's really that engagement piece that is critical. It's not just something that's on your resume. It's not just a volunteer opportunity, but what are you doing to really get engaged? So serving on a committee, really investing the time to volunteer, to be at events, to support. It's not just giving dollars, and I think that's something that I am blessed with. We're not just a governing board. All of our board members are required to serve in some capacity.
Mhm.
And so that's been a huge, but it's also leveraging that talent, right? So I do not possess all of the areas, experiences, expertise. I leverage my board, and I think that's where we have learned. And I, on the other boards that I sit on, encourage board members like, oh, from an HR perspective, why aren't we reaching out to this person? We've never had this kind of policy. She sits on our board. Let's leverage her expertise,
Mhm.
right? Rather than trying to figure it out. So I think the
Yeah.
engagement and leveraging those women and men that serve as experts for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. So tell me a little bit more about what you hope for in terms of women, just in general. It doesn't have to relate for Tempo. You mentioned earlier that it's really about, this is a wonderful time to be alive as a woman, and we still have a lot. But what are some of your hopes and dreams just for women?
That's such a good question. Honestly, I would love to get to a point, and let me try and phrase this as best, but where it's not that we're celebrating the first, but
Mhm.
it just becomes part of the dialogue. So by
Mhm.
that I mean, we're not celebrating the first female CEO, the first African American vice president, but that it's just female vice president,
Mhm.
but that it's just, we take that out of the narrative. That
Mhm.
would be the ultimate goal. That it just
Mhm.
becomes a happenstance. We don't talk about that from a male perspective. The first white male to run our country or to be the next CEO. I think if we can take that female element out
Mhm.
of the net sentence or the description, I think that would be huge.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be wouldn't that be
Well,
incredible?
that's progress, right? It's not that,
Absolutely.
10% are on boards and it's not gonna go up to 12. We're making bigger strides for
Absolutely.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and I talked about the CEO that really brought me under her
Mhm.
wing at Cookton Gunderson, And when I was leading the charge to get publicity, and we went on an international, media relations tour with her, and I wanted the headline to be first female CEO.
Yeah.
And she did not want that. And she refused to have that in the headline because she said, I don't want that to be my narrative. I
Right.
earned this role, not because I'm
Mhm.
female. I earned this role. And
Mhm.
that was a lesson for me. Of course, the media wanted that. The media wanted to see
Right.
that, but
Right.
it was a different way to really focus on it's her strengths, it's her abilities, it's her experience, and not the fact
Mhm.
that she is a woman.
Yeah. Yeah. Tempo is about mentorship, and you just cited her. Um, what's your mentoring model for yourself, right? Being mentored, actually mentoring people. What's your model?
Being mentored, I want to make sure that it's a diversity of thought, diversity of industry. I Mentors have come in and out of my life at opportune times. I have some mentors that I've had for decades and some new mentors. And just really, what is it that I need from them to become a better leader is really what I lead with, or
Mhm.
what I find the most valuable from my mentor. I want somebody who's not going to just say, hey, nice job, but really challenge me, provide opportunities to think differently, to look at ways to think out of the box, go risk, go all big. And I want to be able to take those learnings to that next generation. So my mentees as well. And what can I provide to them? How can I that make them see their strengths and then build on those strengths as well? So
Mhm.
I know that that's what mentors have done to me. I hope
Yeah.
that I've been able to do that to mentees as well.
Yeah. What's the biggest advice that you give to your mentees?
Think bold, think big, and don't stay at a comfort level. Don't
Mhm. Mhm.
challenge yourself. And so that's what I would say. I think in all of the moves from, getting out of TV, deciding where I wanted to go, it was a risk. There was a risk
Mhm.
associated with that, but it was also an opportunity to reinvent yourself and reimagine yourself and challenge yourself. And so that's what I would say. Go big, go bold.
Yeah. Yeah. You could do it. You could do
Yeah, you
it
can
for
do it.
sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially
That's
for
good.
women too, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like
Mhm.
we're the sometimes we can be our worst enemies,
Mhm.
and I think
Mhm.
advocating for ourselves and saying, yes, we can do this.
Mhm.
We do check
Mhm.
all those
Mhm.
boxes.
Yeah, that's really the whole impetus for this podcast, to be honest, because so many people, I mean, I didn't, just like you, right? I didn't think I'd be doing this 5 years ago.
Right.
But so many people would say, I can't do that. I'm like, yeah, you can. If I can do a podcast, you can do anything. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, it is belief in yourself. So,
Agreed.
what do you get to do for fun, Jen, when you're not changing the world with tempo?
So I love to travel. I love to travel. So when any opportunity that I have to do
Yeah.
with that, it's great. I love to cook. I love to read. I'm a mentor to a young woman that I through Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Mhm.
So we were introduced when she was 6. She's now 26. So
Wow.
I've been with her for quite a while, and just to see her grow, and it's been really an amazing, amazing gift. And again,
Yeah,
blessed to be in her life. So
that's cool.
yeah,
Where's the last place you traveled?
I just got back from Scotland.
Nice.
So
That's
I did
cool.
2 weeks in Scotland, never been, but went with my mom and dad and my little brother and his wife, and spent 2 weeks in a
Um,
incredibly gorgeous country. So
yeah, that's fantastic. That's
yeah,
great. Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Very good. Well, I know you have some big programming coming up for Tempo. So why don't you tell our listeners about the big events coming up that you wanna make sure everybody's aware of, and then how they can find Tempo and you to get connected.
Wonderful. So thanks for the plug. This is great. This is a shameless plug, but we are hosting our 19th annual leadership event. So this is a it has become our signature event for the organization. It's open to the public. Anybody can come on November 7th. It's going to be held at the new Baird Center, downtown Milwaukee. So you can find out more information on our website, tempomilwaukee.org. That's tempomilwaukee.org. We are so excited to welcome Soledad O'Brien.
I'm excited too, man. God,
I'm so stoked. We're
cool.
so excited.
Yeah.
She has ties here to Milwaukee. Actually, a Tempo mentor or a Tempo member, Jessica Gomez Jolines, will be moderating. So she works for Soledad's show and was a former reporter at WISN when I got to know Jessica, will be serving as moderator. And so help to bring her in. Soledad is a world, known. She's been on NBC. She's an international journalist, and it's just going to be really, really kind of brings me back to my roots a little bit. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
November 7th at the Baird Center.
Fantastic. Well, Jen, thank you so much for all your time. Thanks for growing that organization. And I know just from the connections that I've made personally through it, as well as our team, just a really delightful organization for women to be a part of and just connect to other really strong, powerful ladies in this area. So congratulations on all the success that you've had.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your commitment and hosting this. I mean, this is such a wonderful platform to share these stories. So thank you. Kudos to you and your team. This is really, really a great opportunity. I'm blessed.
Thanks. No, we have a lot of fun with it. A lot of fun. So, all right. Well, have a great day, Jen.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we have. Are there inspirational women leaders in your life? Recommend them for this podcast by emailing me at jcollins@knot-magic.com and telling me why they're the perfect person to be featured. And please leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts to help us share these amazing women with others.